Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tackling a massive, honestly kind of silent headache that keeps data analytics and platform engineers up at night. We're talking about why data reconciliation absolutely needs to become code. If you work with data and you've ever been on the hook for a migration or a big refactor, well, you know exactly the kind of stomach-dropping anxiety we're about to talk about.
Because here is the uncomfortable truth of our industry. Your pipeline can run successfully and still produce the wrong data. You know the exact feeling, right? The job finished, the DAG is perfectly green, the migration completed without a single error, and your CDC tool is flashing a healthy thumbs up. But all of that beautiful infrastructure success, it means absolutely nothing if the actual data it's spitting out is incorrect.
And then, the inevitable happens. Someone from the business side opens their morning dashboard and asks the dreaded question. Hey, why did revenue change? Or maybe, why does this new table have fewer rows than yesterday? Suddenly, nobody cares if your pipeline ran. The real mystery you have to solve is proving, without a shadow of a doubt, that the new data matches the old data. Okay, let's dive into this. To solve this mystery, we rely on data reconciliation. Now, at its core, this is just the process of comparing a source output and a target output to prove they're equivalent. Think comparing an app database directly to a warehouse replica or an old DBT model to a freshly refactored one. The goal is always the same, proving they match. But that brings us to the first big hurdle, the problem with manual checks, or what we call the illusion of looks good to me. Let's be real about how most teams are handling these checks right now. It's fragile, it's totally unstandardized, and honestly, it's pure chaos. I mean, the workflow usually goes exactly like this. First, you frantically write some one-off SQL to check a few row counts. Then, you blindly paste those results into a random spreadsheet. Third, you snap a quick screenshot, drop it into a Slack channel with a looks good to me. And finally, a few weeks later, you forget absolutely everything about what you just did. It is a crazy, ephemeral workflow for something that is so critical to the business. So when that stakeholder inevitably circles back a month later asking why the data looks off, reality hits hard. Because nobody knows which filters were applied in that Scratchpad SQL. Nobody knows whether the keys were actually unique. Nobody knows how nulls were handled. Nobody knows if the check ran against 10 rows or 10 million. And nobody knows where the evidence went because it's buried in a Slack read from 3 weeks ago. All right, let's slow down for a second. We need to look at why trust needs evidence and really reframe the root cause here. Because data reconciliation, it's not just some technical chore or a pesky Jira ticket blocking your sprint. Fundamentally, at its core, it is a trust problem. And the reality is, trust cannot depend on a screenshot. Trust needs evidence. If you're migrating data or moving it with CDC pipelines or refactoring a massive core model, you absolutely need trust. And concrete, undeniable proof is literally the only way you're going to get it. So let's move to the next step and see how this all builds. We're talking about reconciliation as code, the paradigm shift. This is the big conceptual leap that's going to pull data engineering out of the dark ages. Just think about the stark contrast in the modern data stack right now. We've turned almost everything into permanent reviewable code, right? Infrastructure, transformations, analytics models, tests, the whole shebang. But then you look at reconciliation and it's not code. It's archaic, it's completely trapped in local SQL files, messy notebooks, spreadsheets, and entirely manual tap-on-the-shoulder approvals. So how do we fix it? Reconciliation as code. This just means the rules for your comparison are actually written down in a versioned, reviewable, and repeatable format. The exact definition of what matches actually means should live in Git. It needs to produce real artifacts and generate actual evidence rather than just relying on someone remembering a query they ran a month ago. And we have to get this right, because doing it poorly is actually worse than not doing it at all. Bad reconciliation gives you this terrifying false sense of security. I mean, silently comparing the wrong columns, that is dangerous. Skipping row-level checks entirely just because keys are missing, that is dangerous. Assuming your CDC identity is the exact same as your comparison identity, that is dangerous. And passing a check without explicitly showing what actually ran, yup, that is dangerous. A good system has to be totally explicit about what passed, what failed, and what was blocked. And this brilliantly illustrates the need for a totally new tool. Enter Recon Core, proving equivalence. This is an early, pre-alpha open-source framework that's being built for this exact problem. It's designed to take reconciliation contracts and actually compile them into those explicit artifacts we just talked about. Now, to be clear, Recon Core has a very narrow, super-focused goal. It is not trying to replace DBT. It's not replacing your CDC tools. No way. It is explicitly designed for those terrifying moments when you have to prove output A matches output B, like comparing a source database directly to a warehouse replica, or an old pipeline against a new one, a legacy metric to a rewritten one, or simply proving your bronze layer matches your silver layer. Ultimately, this is the future vision of data engineering. Sign-off based on evidence, not vibes. We desperately need a workflow where failures are totally explainable, assumptions are visible, and checks are actually compiled, where the proof of equivalence doesn't just vanish into a Slack history black hole. So I want to leave you with this final, pretty provocative question to chew on. Is your data just moving, or is it proven? Because the future of this industry isn't just about shuffling data from point A to point B anymore. It's about proving, beyond a doubt, that the data can be trusted. If you're the one on the hook for making sure a migration doesn't break the business, I highly encourage you to go check out the open source Recon Core project. It's the perfect time to help shape it. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.